Hi folks, welcome back to the Amazing Education channel. This is a video about, well, it's basically audio because all I have is my phone, but that's normal for this channel. It's information that you will benefit from. It's what you need to hear and not necessarily what you expect to hear. So this is about the decline of the American Empire. Take a look at Japan in 1980s. Do a little research. 1980s until now, so the last 40 years, they've had incredible stagnation. They had real estate boom, which is what we're going through right now. They had terrible government debt, which is what we're going through right now. And their stock market reached a high, and then it's basically never recovered since the mid 80s. So gosh, that's about 35 years, and the United States is heading in the same direction. So if you're an investor thinking about retirement, you could be setting yourself up for 35 years of declining retirement savings. That's not really a good thing. A lot of it has to do with extreme valuations. Some people call it speculation, but basically the stock markets in the United States have very high values because people invested strongly into stocks and didn't see other simple investments that paid as well or seemed to pay as well. But there's no guarantee that those stocks and investments in the stock markets will continue to go up. They've been declining since near the beginning of 2022. So right now, that's when this video is being made. And so now the United States has been resilient in the past, but we've never had such a terrible amount of government debt and also debt in business and private investment. So people are borrowing money to invest in businesses, but also to invest or even to just do stock trading, and more than in history ever. And part of that is just a monetary situation because of the Federal Reserve printing an extreme amount of money. So you could say, well, we have more money in the system than ever in the past, so of course the values are going to be higher than ever. And that's true, but also as a percentage, when you look at the United States government debt as a percentage of the productivity of the economy as measured by GDP, gross domestic product, that's a ratio. It's the debt to GDP ratio. You can Google it and check out what I'm talking about, and you will see that it's going to go up. It could be 150%. Government debt could be 150% of the annual gross domestic product or more. Could go up to 200%. And it's a very similar situation to Japan. Now, it's not as bad as Japan so far, and we haven't had the stagnation and decline of the real estate and stock markets in the United States as happened in Japan. But since we're not solving the problem and we are facing inflation, and then if we ever work to pay off the terrible government debt, we would have higher taxation, which can also lead to a downturn in the economy. When people have to pay so much of their incomes, how can they spend at businesses and for services, they would have less income free to spend and to help the economy and businesses. Now, in a global perspective, historical perspective, that might mean a slowdown of the economies, and maybe we'd end up using less energy and creating less pollution and less chemicals and fewer chemicals and less, so a cleaner society. Just like happened with the COVID pandemic, we saw clearer skies when people stayed home, and but it doesn't look like that. If we have higher taxation, people will have to work more to pay for the housing and pay for the food and transportation, and so they would have to work more, and chances are that they wouldn't be just staying home if they have to do more to survive. What would help us is to cut government spending and have the government just work on the basic protection of the country and human rights, property rights and human rights, and then not a lot of fluff spending. So you can let, like in the past, charitable spending and even infrastructure had been private and charity and so on and so forth. And in some states you have private highway systems, toll roads, toll highways, and private bridges. For example, the bridge between the United States and Canada between Michigan and Ontario. You have to pay money to cross it because somebody built it and they own it. And so you do not need as much government spending as we have, for example, in especially education. So we've consolidated too much. We have too much socialism in our mixed economy. We don't have a capitalist economy, just like we don't have a democracy. We have a representative republic, and we have voting for that. You think we live in a democracy and it's a capitalist system? Well, you're probably not a straight A student, probably don't understand economics very well, so you're just you need a little bit of education to improve your thinking. And so when your thinking is more aligned with reality, then you understand more and do better and have a better future. So that's what you can learn here, and so that's why I hope you thumbs up, like, subscribe, make comments, and watch some Milton Friedman and look into Ayn Rand, her writings, especially about human rights and philosophy and economics. Her fiction is, well, she's the most popular author probably of the 20th century in terms of book sales. It's Rand, R-A-N-D. Also Milton Friedman is a wonderful thinker, and you can see his videos on YouTube. He'll set your thinking straight and help us avoid the coming stagnation, if it can be avoided. Although so many people, they just want other people's money. They're greedy. They vote for government spending, and when you vote for government spending, unless you're for increasing your taxes, which you could just do voluntarily, just spend more on charitable giving instead of forcing other people to pay for what you support, and basically expropriating from others just to do what you think is appropriate. And So we'll be better off, because when too many people are not really that productive, and then they vote to basically overspend. It's an overspending situation, spending more than we make, which is what the government does throughout history, and you can see it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be spending more than we're taking in taxes. That's what we're doing right now. The government takes in, it's not really voluntary, but takes in a certain amount of money and is spending far more than it earns. And this happens again and again. And why? It's because people vote for these, what they view as incredible spending programs, but they don't want to pay for them. And what happens, there are many negative effects, including inflation. That's right, it's based on money printing, and which is what the government does when it doesn't get enough taxes. It just starts printing money like nuts. You can get into inflation, and in the worst cases, hyperinflation. The socialists, think of Venezuela, socialists in Venezuela, and throughout history, other empires and countries have done this again and again. It happened in Nazi Germany and African countries. Basically, they want what they can't afford, and so they just figure, okay, go to the printing press, print the money, and we'll just buy whatever we like. Well, it ends in disaster, economic disaster. People lose all of their savings virtually, and the money becomes worthless, and you have a huge collapse, and people become refugees in many cases, and down to subsistence lifestyles. And that might be everyone's plan. Maybe they just want a collapse. They don't like business and industry, and they want us all to go back to agriculture, which, as I said before, it might be okay, but it involves theft and death and starvation, so that part's not good. But maybe we should just move back to an agricultural lifestyle, have very small family sizes, like one child, and since not everybody has children, we could reduce the population, so we would have enough land that we could deindustrialize and go back to agriculture. Maybe we'd be healthier. But anyway, so that would, really promote the downfall of the American economy, and basically, so your retirement savings, you would probably have to go back to physical labor and just, barely survive through your old age. Maybe just rent a room and just eat vegetables and bread, and not travel much, probably not have much in your life. And but it might be the healthiest way. And not have a high income, don't own a vehicle, live close to shopping and groceries, and have a garden, but get out of the cities where you might not have enough room for gardening. Anyway, best of luck, because the United States looks like it's in a real pickle, a real mess, with inflation and a stagnant economy, which is called stagflation. And you really need to educate yourself about this, and do what you can, because at least if you save for retirement, at least you'll have something. And if we have terrible economics, you might be standing in line to get food in the future. If you retire without savings, and maybe you didn't even buy a house, you were a renter, and the cost of living might be so high, and cost of rentals might be so high, that you could find yourself on the street standing in lines to get food bank food, or some kind of charity, a church or whatever. And if it gets bad enough, there might not be food available for everybody, and you might be one of the people that starves if you don't do something to align yourself with reality, with science, with education, and do your best to earn and save before things get worse. Now, all of these problems might not occur. The government may stop its vast overspending and overprinting of money, and hopefully we could elect an economic expert who's savvy in conservative. I'm not saying Republican, but let's just say like money saving and government debt reduction without incredible taxation. So just by maybe keeping taxes the same or less and allowing business and people to do well, but because they earn more, the actual tax income to the government is the same or higher. And then with spending so low, everything will not necessitate the terrible inflation, and so people will not starve. So good luck. Elect somebody smart, whether it's independent, libertarian, Republican, or Democrat, or a new party. Elect somebody who's intelligent and fiscally, economically gets us on a balanced budget. And please support a balanced budget amendment and human rights. Thank you very much. Take care.